Hello, everyone, and welcome to our lunchtime skincare event with Jo. Today we're talking about all the age-defying essentials, kind of what actually works. So I've been really excited for this event, and I hope you're excited too. We're so glad that you're here and you're joining. We have a whole week of lunchtime skincare with Jo. So this is our first day of it. And we'll kind of be going all throughout Friday. So a few things I just want to let you know about before we kind of jump into things. Jo is going to talk to us a little bit about kind of what the age-defying essentials are, but we also want this to be a time that you can ask questions if you have any questions that kind of come to mind that you're thinking about either now or when Jo's speaking. So at the bottom of your screen, there should be a little chat box. I already see some of you have found it and are saying hello. I love that. Hey, Rebecca, Lori, Andrea. So fun to see everyone kind of jumping in there. So if you have questions anytime while Jo is talking, that is a great place to go ahead and add any questions you have. And then kind of towards the end of our chatting, we'll get to some of the questions and we'll try to answer anything that you've got going on in your head. But we just want to say again, we're so glad you're here. We hope that this is a good time to kind of do these events. We know that sometimes, maybe you're on your lunch break right now, maybe you're at home, maybe you're taking care of the kids, maybe you're out shopping, you could be doing all kinds of things. But we are so glad that you're here. And if you love these, let us know and we'll try to do more of them. But Jo, I am going to go ahead and hand it off to you because I know that you're the main event today. So I know that they'd probably love to know just a little bit about who you are and then jump into things and let's get it started.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you. I appreciate it. So you may or may not know, some people know who I am, some people don't, but for those of you who don't, I will let you know. First and foremost, I'm actually a Winona patient and I have been since March of 2022. Yeah. So I was a patient first before I became an employee. I'm actually a dermatology nurse practitioner by trade, but I have not been practicing since July of 2021. Stepped away from the clinical aspect and just very fortunate that I stumbled upon a position here at Winona. So I do a whole bunch of things. My main job here is to oversee the patient support center, and then I also support the doctor. So I do a little bit of this, and I've got my hands on a few other things, and I help with some of these lives. But because of my dermatology background, they have leaned on me for a lot of dermatology and skincare information, and it truly is my passion. Even though I don't work in the clinic anymore, it truly is my passion, and I love sharing all that I have, and it also helps to keep me fresh and remembering what I learned all these years. But I think I told you everything. Patient, I work for Winona and I'm a dermatology nurse practitioner by trade. I'm still licensed, but I do not actively see patients and haven't since 2021. So anyway, without further ado, I've actually put together some notes because normally I do these types of things off the cuff. It just kind of comes, but I wanted to make sure that I stayed on track and keep us within the time parameters that we have. So I'm going to get rolling. If you have questions, I am just going to tell you right now, I am terrible at comments, but we will have a place at the end, and Maddie's going to be monitoring those comments. And so when we get to the end and we're going to do questions, if you've dropped a question in the comments, she will grab that and we'll circle back and hit as many of those as we can within the time frame. Okay. All right. So without further ado, let's talk about the skincare market, because we're talking about, well, how do you know what you need, right? Well, the skincare market is kind of overwhelming. There are so many products on the market. There's so many brands that have products. It's $100 billion plus market. So there's a lot of investment in it. Projected growth, we don't know, but we do know that there's a lot of brands selling a lot of products. Marketing tactics. So, when you're trying to determine what you should get, the people who make these products spend a lot of time and energy, or at least most of them do, on marketing, because that's how they get you, obviously, to buy their product. When you go into your local pharmacy or Target or Ulta, Sephora, I mean, does anyone else just get overwhelmed? Like, where do I go? What do I get? You know, you may know what you need when you go there, but if you don't and you walk in, it can be a little overwhelming. Same thing with Target. If you've ever been to Target, I think everybody on the planet has. I mean, there's aisles, not just one section for skincare, but there's several aisles of skincare, and making selections and deciding what is best usually boils down to how pretty the packaging is, where it is on the shelf. And that's in the grocery store as well. That's intentional. And then the labeling, like how it looks and what it says, and or your budget. Sometimes budget will obviously make the decision for you as well. But there's so many choices, and that whole marketing thing is super competitive. Some companies do a really great job at it and have really high sales. But you know, things such as the size of the product, the color, the text, all of that plays into catching your eye and drawing you to the product and making you think that that's what you need. And sometimes you get it right and sometimes you don't. I mean, is there anyone here who's bought a skincare product and it was a complete bomb? Yes, I have. So you need advice, what to buy, right? Well, you go into Sephora, Ulta, you're overwhelmed, but they have reps. They have team members there that work the store. There's a lot of products. And honestly, I don't know this for a fact, but I suspect that each employee probably has an area like hair care or skin care or cologne, whatever. That's their sort of niche, if you will. But if you think about, say you go in and you want a cleanser, like, hey, I need a cleanser. She may ask you a couple questions about, like, you know, is there a particular brand? You know, what kind of cleanser do you want? Those kinds of things. But to me, it seems that it would be absolutely impossible for that little employee to know every brand that's out there and whether they're good and make recommendations. More than likely, they are going to recommend what they have tried because they're familiar with it. And if it works for them, they feel comfortable and confident recommending it to you, but it may not be good for you. Or they may have had an in-service from a rep, a company rep. When I worked in the clinic for all of our prescription drugs, reps came in, they brought us treats, they brought us food, they brought us all the things. They gave us the information about the prescription. They told us who it was best for, told us how to prescribe it. And when you have that knowledge base, then yeah, you're going to lean into that product for the appropriate person. Same thing here. I mean, they're going to lean into the things that they know and they're comfortable with. And they probably do get it right some of the time. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people that go there and get products and they're spot on. And I love that because I don't like it wasting any money. You may also get advice from friends or family because those are people that you trust, right? They're people that you know. They wouldn't tell you about something that was bad, or maybe they would and then you wouldn't buy it. But you got to keep in mind that everybody's different. What works for one person may not necessarily work for another. And I see that mistake happen a lot. Like, well, oh, my neighbor Nancy, she uses the blah, blah, blah. Well, that's great for Nancy, but your skin is completely different. And what works for Nancy may not necessarily work for you. Okay. And then last but not least, social media influencers. If you've not been on the gram or on TikTok or even on Facebook, you know, people are selling online and the influencers do a really great job. It's kind of like maybe at the store, they have a product, they're comfortable with it, they've used it, they are getting a commission if you purchase that product, so that kind of leans that way. But they do also have a really great way of whether or not you think you need the product, making you believe that you want it. Who here has bought something online when you like, that sounds amazing, and you bought it, and it may or may not be good for you. So you have some advice out there. So you may lean on some of those people. So how do you know what you need? That's the first part. Like, even if you walk into Ulta, Sephora, or Target, or wherever, your local pharmacy, to get whatever it is that you get, or even go online, you have to have some basics about your skin to know what you need. You can't just go, well, I need a cleanser, but I don't know what I need. So I'm going to help you with that. We're going to touch on that a little bit today, and I'm going to try to help guide you so you have a little better understanding. Obviously, I can't do one-on-one skin consultations here. We'd be here till I don't know when. It would be fun, But I'm going to try to give you some tips and tricks. So like when you look in the mirror, when you feel your face and those kinds of things help direct you to make some better choices when you get to those stores and you're not so overwhelmed. You can walk in the store and say, I need a such and such, and they'll show you. And then you can go in there and say, hey, well, give me 3 options. Show me 3 different options of this type of product. And they'll grab one. And hopefully then you can make a determination based on that, whether that would be the best product. There's no guarantees with skincare product, with any skincare product. So just keep that in mind that, even though it may look like the best and it may be highly recommended, it may be the most expensive thing that you've ever bought, doesn't mean that it will always work. So, or may not always be good for your skin, but I'm going to try to help you a little bit with that. Okay, so we're going to learn a little bit about it. So your skin type partially determines what you need. And I think most people are pretty good. They know whether they're dry, they know whether they're oily, or they know whether they're sort of a combination thereof. Some people still have a little bit of T-zone or kind of on the chin and things like that. Is your skin sensitive? Is it like more dry and sensitive and red? And anytime you put anything on it, it reacts. Or is it heavily damaged? Have you spent a lot of time in the sun and you've got a lot of sun damage that's present that you want to address? So thinking about your skin, knowing at least those pieces about your skin type are going to help to lead you in the right direction. However, there's a little caveat to that, and I want to just mention this. And we're going to talk about this a little bit when I get to the cleanser portion. Sometimes, so for people who say they're more dry or more oily, or sometimes even a combination, can you guys hear that ding, ding, ding? I'm going to close that. I have an app. I have one of our things open in. I thought I silenced it, and I apologize. I don't even hear it, but then I was like hearing the click. So anyway, just get rid of that. But anyway, sometimes your skincare products can actually be making you more dry or making you more oily, as crazy as that sounds. And that has to do with selecting maybe not the right product for your skin type. Again, when I get to cleansers, I'm going to kind of highlight that a little bit for you. So if you're thinking about your skin, that's the first step. Am I dry? Am I oily? Am I a combination? Am I sensitive? I'm on the sensitive spectrum. I actually have underlying rosacea. You may not think that I do, but I do. It's very well controlled. I know exactly what I need to use on my skin. I know exactly what I cannot use on my skin, and I avoid it like the plague. Or is your skin heavily damaged, by the sun? If you just like, I'm not a fan of sunscreen, and you've got some damage that needs to be addressed. That all of those factors weigh into the skincare products that you are going to ultimately select for your skincare regimen. Okay. Everybody doing okay so far? I rock and roll, man. I talk really fast. And I'm excited. So there's that. Okay. See, Angela is typing. So you got the skin type down. I think, does everybody understand kind of, where you are in the skin type department? Your skin issues also determine what needs you have. Like, do you have fine lines? Do you have wrinkles? Do you have enlarged pores? Do you have discoloration, hyperpigmentation, a rough texture, or sort of a dull appearance? All of those pieces of your skin are also going to weigh into what products that you're going to want to select. And depending, you can address them all, but you may also want to consider prioritizing. I'm not going to get too deep into this part, like, building a skincare regimen where you start, do you start with 1 or 2 pieces and then work your way up, or you just get the whole shebang and hit the ground and run in and address all the things? My personal preference for most people, unless they tell me otherwise, unless they tell me they want it all, I'm going to start them out low and slow, and we'll circle back to why that is as well. So just to give you some examples, like fine lines and wrinkles, enlarged pores, discoloration, rough texture, dull appearance, all of those things, you want products that are going to turn over, skin cell turnover. You want to take off the top layers to reveal under there somewhere is fresh new skin. there are products that do that, and we're going to talk about those as well. So if you think about when you look in the mirror, do you see fine lines, wrinkles, discoloration? So kind of make that your mental note. So you've got your skin type: dry, oily, sensitive, damaged, and now you've got your issues: wrinkles, lines, pores, color, discoloration, those kinds of things. Okay, so those are kind of the two things that you're armed with when you're gonna go into Ulta. I have an Ulta around the corner of me. I'm afraid of the place, actually. So this is my 3 pillars of a really good skincare regimen. If you go online and look, everybody sort of has their own take, but these are what I call the pillars because I think they are most important in everyone's skincare regimen. One is cleanse. You want to cleanse. A lot of people don't cleanse. It really, truly is a game changer. If you're not a cleansing person, I highly, 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 highly recommend it. And it's easy to get into a routine. I was actually out of town last weekend, and the people that I was rooming with, I'm like, I have to take a quick shower. I have to wash my face. I have to do my skincare. They threw on their jammies and jumped in the bed. And I was like, not me, not me. It's just my thing. Protect your skin. You're going to protect it from future damage. You may have some damage from when you were younger, or maybe you haven't just been on that protection train, but protecting your skin is going to do the most in terms of the appearance of your skin, which is not why we do skincare entirely, but for the health of your skin. Okay. It really is about healthy skin more so than the beauty, at least for most people. It is. And then last but not least, restore, replenish, and moisturizing the skin. There are things that need to be done to help take care of it. And what I can just tell you, just sort of, and I don't have any data on this, but I can tell you when I was practicing, I practiced for almost 12 years as a dermatology nurse practitioner. The people who walked through the door that took care of their skin from head to toe, I found fewer like growths and things and skin cancers and problems versus the people who didn't take care of their skin. So if that's a motivation for you, in terms of like overall health, it's not all about trying to look pretty. It's about taking care of your skin. It's the largest organ of the body. I think everybody knows that. Protects everything on the inside. So it is important to take care of. Okay. All right, so let's talk about cleansing. Like I said, not everybody is on the cleansing train. And I wasn't always. I'll admit I wasn't always. In fact, here's a fun story. In high school, I didn't really have pimples. I'd get one around my period, which almost wish I still had my period. Facing menopause, I know some people might disagree with me on that, but I didn't have a lot of acne as a teenager, but I get that occasional period pimple. But then when I turned 40, I don't know what happened. The sky dropped out and I had acne rosacea. So I was all red. I was inflamed. I had these like hard, cystic, awful pimples. And I wasn't really cleansing, or I probably was every once in a while, but not using an appropriate product for my rosacea skin. But cleansing is important. And before we get to cleansers, I just want to preface this by saying that a lot of people that use sunscreen, yay for you, and or use a foundation with a sunscreen, yay for you. You really do need to pre-clean before you actually use your cleanser. Cleansers, by and large, are not intended and shouldn't be harsh enough to remove those kinds of products, okay? There's some great makeup wipes out there to take that first layer off. Think of it as like vacuuming before you mop the floor. Okay, you want to get that top layer and then mop with your cleanser. Micellar water. There's multiple companies that have micellar water. I have one. I love it, and I use that before I cleanse my face with my regular cleanser. Just helps to get that stuff off. I use a BB cream with sunscreen, so I pretty clean with that. So let's talk about cleansers. There's basically 3 different types of cleansers. And so going back to your skin type, dry, oily, or a combination, this is how you want to pick your cleanser. If you are on the dry, sensitive spectrum, you want to lean into creamy cleansers. They are more moisturizing, they are more hydrating, they are less harsh, okay? If you are kind of in the middle, not too oily, not too dry, a foamy cleanser is usually appropriate for you. There are a bajillion foamy cleansers out on the market. And I used to be a foamy cleanser person because I thought, well, I just love the sound of foamy cleanser. That sounds, I don't know, it just sounds good. Foamy cleansers are not right for me. They are too drying for me. Remember, I'm on the dry, sensitive spectrum. I always use a creamy cleanser. Just the other foamy cleansers are too dry. I don't even know what I was using back in the day when I had the rosacea or when I had the flare. And then last but not least, gel cleansers are usually best for oily skin. There is another little caveat here, and I've done this again in clinical practice. I always ask people, tell me about your regimen. What are you doing? Particularly people who come in with acne. What are you cleansing with? What are you moisturizing with? And all the things. And so they would tell me that they have acne and they're using a gel cleanser. And I'm like, well, so here's the thing. There is always the possibility, and this is something you have to play around with, that you are oily because you're using a gel cleanser. So if you're using a gel cleanser that's really drying out your face, all the little sebaceous glands on your face that produce oil are like, wait a minute, she just dried us completely out. We have got to send in the forces. And the next thing you know, like an hour, 2 hours after you've washed your face, you look very shiny. It could actually be the gel cleanser. And switching to going to the other end of the spectrum and going to a creamy cleanser where you're cleansing your face, but you're still imparting the moisturization and hydration to your skin, you are less likely to see that excess oil production. It works for some people. It doesn't work for everyone. But if that might be you, like when you cleanse and then like a few hours later, you're like, where am I blocking things because I'm so oily? It more than likely can be hormones, of course. But it more than likely is your cleanser is drying you out too much, or the products that you're using after your cleanser are not providing enough moisture. If you provide that moisture and hydration to your skin, that oil production will typically temper itself out and you won't have that problem. So that's tip number 1. But yeah, the perfect cleanser is you're not going to be too oily. You're not going to be too dry. In fact, when I was doing this, I was thinking about when I was in high school, I did use a very popular obtained at the mall 3-step system with a yellow bar. I will not mention the name, but I washed my face with that bar, usually in the morning, I believe it was. But I remember thinking my face felt like this when I was done washing. It was dry. And if I made expressions on my face, that it like I felt like my face would crack. Your face should not feel like that when you wash your face. In fact, it really should feel like nothing. You shouldn't feel too oily. You shouldn't feel too dry. It just should feel very neutral, like you didn't scrub and, dry it out so much that it's so tight and taut that you can feel every facial movement that you make. So keep that in mind. All right, we're still good, cruising along with the cleansers. All right, next, protect. There's several things out on the market that protect the skin, and it really is an important piece of any skincare regimen. Some people like the cleansing, don't like the protection part, but in my opinion, those are non-negotiables. And the 2 products that I use on the daily, one is a vitamin C. Vitamin C is a really cool product. There's all different variations of the percentages. The higher the percentage, the stronger it is. But it actually does 2 things. It protects and it corrects. So it's an antioxidant. It's kind of like your, vitamin C in your orange juice. It protects you from daily exposure, free radical damage, pollution, all those things. Usually it is a serum. So serums, and we're going to talk about layering tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow, I think. Or maybe the day after, I can't remember the order, but serums go on first, and that will help to protect, but it also does correcting in the form of like discolorations. It does actually help with tone and texture because it's ascorbic acid, so it's a little bit of an acid, but most people tolerate it really well, particularly the lower percentages. It usually and should always come in a sealed, and I don't have anything to show you, but a sealed bottle. Like any vitamin C in a jar probably isn't worth your money, simply because vitamin C is very unstable in cosmetic products, and exposure to the air, oxygen, will actually make it not effective. So any vitamin C you should have is usually in the form of a serum and should be typically in a glass bottle, but not always. Some there are in some plastic, but in a pump, some sort of airless container to keep that vitamin C from going bad or getting exposed to air. So that's one. And then everybody's favorite is SPF. I'm not an SPF fan myself. I'm just, sunscreen is sunscreen. I have found a brand that I do like when I do venture out, but most things nowadays actually have a little bit of sunscreen in them, like your BB creams and things like that. There's a lot of lovely, cosmetically elegant, wonderful products that have sunscreen. So you don't have to put on your day-to-day basis, like a true sunscreen. You can, but you don't have to. A lot of it's built into some moisturizers and things like that. And for the most part, they do the job. 30 SPF is really all that you need. That's all the American Academy of Dermatology recommends, assuming that you're not participating in sports or going to the beach or going to the lake or whatever it is that you might be doing. But I want to just tell you a couple little things about sunscreen. If you're an anti-sunscreen person, labels, reading labels, most companies have gotten away, not all of them, some of the super scary things that were contained in sunscreens. Some people are concerned about whether or not they're reef safe, and some are not, because there are two types of ingredients. There are chemical ingredients in sunscreens, and there are physical ingredients in sunscreens. Your chemical ingredients are typically all of those words, if you look on the back of your sunscreen, that you can't say, or they're weird. Okay, they're blah, 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 oxybenzone, blah, blah, blah. I can't even say them all. It's kind of like with what you eat. If you can't say it, you maybe shouldn't eat it. I don't know. But your physical barrier sunscreen is zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. And the difference between the two, so chemical sunscreen. So if this is your skin and you put your chemical sunscreen on, when it absorbs into your skin, so it absorbs in, and then when the sun's rays or UV rays penetrates, the sun doesn't have to be out for you to get UV rays. I always make that mistake. It still protects, but that's all absorbed in there. So people who tend to have issues with discolorations or melasma, chemical sunscreens are not your friend. You should never use them, because the melanin in your skin, when that heat is still absorbed, it's still protecting you, but it makes them excited. And when they get excited, they show. So you'll get and this, and then all the discoloration. You need physical sunscreens. They're labeled as mineral typically, but again, zinc oxide, titanium dioxide, and the way they work, here's your skin, you put that on, it actually creates a barrier. So there's a layer here, and when the sun rays, boom, they just bounce off. So they work completely different. There are some good chemicals. If there's one or two chemical ingredients in your sunscreen, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I personally prefer the mineral chemical or physical blockers because of my sensitive skin. I find that the ingredients, the chemical ingredients, some of them, and I don't know which one, cause some irritation. So that could be a tip for you. Like if you use a sunscreen, you're like, oh, it makes my skin break out, or it's irritating, or something along those lines, you may really want to consider using strictly physical sunscreen. And they are out there. They're everywhere now. They didn't used to be, but there's so many people that want that and don't want to use the chemicals. So There's that. So that's protection. Last, restore, replenish, moisturize. How are we doing on time? Oh, 12:30, 30 minutes. Maybe we'll get this done even sooner. Few things. So starting at the top, probably the most aggressive products are your retinols or vitamin A or retin A. Those are fantastic in any skincare regimen. And the reason for that is they help to turn over skin cells. So if you're not using anything that's helping to turn over skin cells, you're likely going to see larger pores. You're going to see discolorations. You're going to see uneven texture. You're going to see dull skin. So a retinol, retin A, tretinoin is the prescription version. Our face cream has tretinoin in it, has 2 different strengths. We offer 2 different strengths. And the reason we do that, and we pair it with estriol, is it helps to get that skin cell turnover. And you think about it, when you remove the dead skin cells, under there is fresh new skin. It's also going to help with fine lines and wrinkles. Again, it's not going to be immediate. This is long-term use. And I think there's a place where I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. If not, I'll circle back to how to use it so that you know. Or we might be covering that in another one. I should have had like a list so I knew what I was doing over here. Second, niacinamide is vitamin B3. It is a great skincare ingredient. It's found commonly a lot of times in prescription and over-the-counter acne products. It's calming, it's hydrating, it's soothing. But it helps with all of those other things too. It's just not aggressive. There are different, again, different percentages, kind of like the vitamin C, kind of like the retinols. And the lower the percentage, the less aggressive it is. It goes up to 10%. I think it's 2 to 10% on the niacinamide. So if you have sensitive skin, you may want to lean to a lower percentage, but you will see that as an ingredient, and most people do really well with it. And it's a great sort of overall, all the things skincare ingredient. Hyaluronic acid, very hydrating. And the funny thing is I don't know why they named, I know why they named it hyaluronic acid, because it is an acid. If you look at chemical molecular structure, it's an acid for those chemistry people. However, some people think that it's an acid like glycolic acid or alpha hydroxy acids, and it is not. It's not at all. It is the most hydrating product that you can put on your face. Most often does come as a serum or like a I don't want to call it a gel, but there's a blue jar on the market that has very popular hyaluronic acid. And the hyaluronic acid molecule can hold 1,000 times its weight in water. So when you put it on, it draws water to the area where it is. So, but there's a couple little things to know. Like if you are like me and you don't drink enough water, it's only going to pull as much water as it can find. So if you're dehydrated and you put hyaluronic acid on and you're thinking, well, this is going to be the be all end all for my moisturization problem, it's not. So keep that in mind. Something else I was going to say about that. And then I was thinking about the blue jar I told you about, and got off track. If I remember, I will come back. I wish I remembered. Anyway, moving on. Ceramides. Ceramides are in tons of skincare products, and they are great. They are basically amino acids that help to build proteins, 2 very important proteins in your skin. One, collagen, the other is elastin. Those, unfortunately, as we get less young, I don't call it getting older, I call it getting less young. Your body's production of collagen and elastin kind of makes its way down the hill. So doing things like using products that contain ceramides and have those amino acids to build those proteins will help to stimulate collagen production and elastin. So collagen, if you didn't know this, is sort of like the building blocks of your skin. It's what holds everything in place. So when you lose collagen, it kind of goes downward. And then elastin, just like what it sounds, it's elasticity, elastic. part of your skin. So when you make expression, that your skin bounces back, and sort of, I guess, if you're into visuals, like a rubber band, you have like a fresh rubber band, it pew, comes right back, and you have an old rubber band, you can actually pull it and it might not contract back to where it was, or worse yet, it might break. But stimulating both collagen and elastin, which, by the way, retinols do that as well. Niacinamide does that as well. Is a very important part in terms of your skin health and appearance. So keep that in mind. And then last but not least, I actually put vitamin C back on this list too, because as I told you before, it protects, but it also corrects. It's really good for taking care of discolorations. Takes some time. All of this takes time. Most people, if they're using retinols, probably will notice the biggest difference in their skin, how it looks and how it feels in the shortest period of time than you would with any of these other products. But it depends on the product. Oh, the other thing I was going to tell you about hyaluronic acid was that's what's in fillers. So when people get fillers in their cheeks or their lips or wherever they get fillers, I used to do that. To people, that was one of my jobs. I worked at a plastic surgery office and did fillers and lasers and all the things. Draws water to the area. It's not just the filler that's placed in there. It actually helps to draw water to the area. And also it does stimulate some collagen and elastin as well. So these restore, replenish, and moisturize, those typically, with the exception of vitamin C is typically a morning time product. These are nighttime products, because when you sleep, that's when your body's replenishing, restoring, getting rid of all the things that you've done to it all day long. And also that it's usually, for most people that sleep decent time at night, it's the products stay on longer and do their job longer. So that's restore, replenish, and moisturize. So we had cleansers, we had protect, restore, replenish, moisturize. So with all of that though, consistency is key. You really, really, really have to be consistent. My sister, one of my sisters-in-law, she's not here. She's not on here, so I can say this. She admittedly, she's unhappy with her skin. And despite my guidance, her thing to me is that she's like, I'm just not consistent. I'm not motivated. And I'm like, well, I can recommend all of the products for you. I can give you the best skincare regimen from A to Z. But if you're not consistent with the regimen, you won't see the results that you're looking for. So keep that in mind. And kind of on that same line, going back to like, do you do 1, 2 steps or do you do 20 steps? Well, my opinion is that you start small. If you don't have a basic skincare of at least cleansing and moisturizing and protecting, then you got to start there. Start there. And then once you have that and you're comfortable with an AM and a PM regimen, then add in that vitamin C. That would probably be my first choice. But again, if you're having issues with hydration, then you may want to lean towards some hyaluronic acid to get some more hydration. If your skin is really red and really dry and really irritated, you may want to lean into something with ceramides. Ceramides also, which I didn't mention earlier, help protect the skin barrier. Your skin barrier, if that's damaged and not healthy, that's when things can happen, like acne, for example. There's a whole bunch of other skin conditions, but ceramides help restore that barrier, that skin barrier, and keep it strong and healthy as well. So keep that in mind. I did have a couple examples that I wanted to share in terms of consistency and kind of touch on. Eye creams. I didn't add that as like a product, but everybody needs an eye cream. I know I didn't say that earlier, but eye cream twice a day forever and ever and ever and ever will be your best friend. What I tell people is, they'll get an eye cream, and some people have that whole eye cream graveyard. They get something and they try it. They've got dark circles. They've got fine lines and wrinkles. They've got whatever, but they've used it for 2 weeks and they don't see any difference. Eye cream is the long-term game, morning and night for the rest of your life. And if you were to take a picture of yourself today and then take a picture of yourself even 6 months to a year from now, having done that twice a day, every day, and having not done it twice a day, every day, you would see a difference. The the results don't always present themselves right away. So keep that in mind. Tretinoin, another thing, tretinoin. I told you we have face cream. It has estriol, 0.1% estriol, and then we have two different percentages of the tretinoin. It is an irritating product. It is supposed to be irritating. And so a lot of people will get something like that and they start slapping it onto their face. You know, more is better. No, it's not. And they start to get super red. They get super irritated, dry, flaky. They are a hot mess. And they're like, well, this is terrible. I'm never using this again. So they stop and they don't get the benefit. Tretinoin is a product where for most people, they have to tiptoe on. You start out very slow. Less is more. When it says half a pump, which is what our recommendation is, or a pea size, it is no more than that. And start maybe twice a week. And then the next week, if you're doing well, add in another night and do it 3 nights a week and do that. The other option you have is to start the tretinoin, use it every night. You're going to get very unhappy. But if you can tolerate it, in about 2 or 3 weeks, your skin's going to get acclimated and you'll be using it every night. So it just depends whether you want to jump on the train and fly, or if you prefer, and that's my preference. I don't like walking around with dry, irritated, red, flaky skin because most people have places to go and people to see. If you're going to be a hermit for 2 or 3 weeks and go to the mountains and not see a single soul and you wanted to get on the train, you can do that. But if you've ever tried a retinol or tretinoin product and you've had that happen and you got irritated and dry, check the amount that you use and check the frequency and just tiptoe. It's a long game, and that's something you use for a really long time as well. I tell people use it until you're not applying any more skincare. That's how I'm gonna say that. So I hope that was helpful. And then in closing, just a reminder, the basics are cleansing, moisturizing, protecting. So start there. Refer back to what we learned earlier about your skin type or your dry, oily combination. And then the issues with your skin. What issues do you have? And then we talked about the different products and how they impact certain things, whether you've got fine lines and wrinkles, you've got dryness, those kinds of things. And I said this, I'll say it again. If you don't have a basic skincare program in place, start there. Start simple. You do not need a 20-step program. I see TikToks and I see these girls and the videos go really fast, but it's like product after product after product after product. And most of them are really beautiful. But in my personal opinion, you don't need all of that. And if it's overwhelming, please don't feel bad that like 4 or 5 products is plenty for most people to get a good AM and a PM skincare. And I said all that. It was on my slide that simple basic regimen, work up, and you don't need 20 steps. And that's all I had. So any questions?
Awesome. Oh my goodness, Jo. Thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. I thought that was really interesting just to kind of hear about from my end as well. And I know that we had a lot of people that agree. I do see that we have a few questions. So maybe we can jump into a few of those. We have a question from Angela, and you'll have to maybe interpret this a little bit, but she's wondering if you can repeat the physical. And I'm not sure if you know exactly. Yes.
So that goes back to the sunscreen SPF. There's chemical ingredients which are absorbed into the skin, still protect you, but absorbs the heat. And then there are physical blockers that actually it's a physical blocker. So the UV rays are not absorbed into the skin. It's like they just kind of bounce off, if you will. And the physical blockers are zinc oxide and titanium dioxide.
Okay. And our next question, there's a few from Shelby. So Shelby's first question is she's wondering, do you recommend hydrogenated water?
I don't even know what hydrogenated water is.
All right. Well,
is that something along the lines of, I talked about micellar water that we use for like cleansing I have not even seen hydrogenated water, so I can't recommend.
Well, she's also wondering if you recommend RF.
Are you talking about the skincare line or the radio frequency as a treatment for skin? That would be my question.
Okay. We'll give her a minute to maybe respond to that as well. But she also is wondering, what are the contraindications for estriol?
Well, it's a weird question because I quote unquote can't give medical advice, but what I can tell you is that it's not contraindicated for most people, but however, on our platform, if you are not eligible for our HRT products, the estrogen, progesterone, DHEA, we do not prescribe the estriol, just in terms of if that patient's particular risk profile would prohibit them from having and using HRT, we do not prescribe the estriol face cream. It's a super low percentage of estriol, but just that was a leadership decision that was made, and it really honestly is the safest thing to do.
Absolutely. And on that note, Jo, as well, just since what you just said, for anyone who is on the call, and we go over this too on our live Q&As and doctor dialogues, but if you are a Winona patient, your Winona doctor is available 24/7 in your patient portal. So that is a great place to reach out to them about any questions that you might have. They really are there to answer your questions, help you feel comfortable with your treatment. So that's a great place to reach out to as well, just to kind of add that in on that end. And Shelby did clarify about RF. She said that it is radio, yes, frequency.
Yes, absolutely. There are a whole bunch of really nice treatments out there. Radio frequency, I've seen some amazing results. There's, once upon a time, there was like one device out on the market. Now there's a whole bunch of different ones out there. Can't give any names and promote anybody, but yeah, radio frequency, for those of you who don't know, most of the time it's a device that has needles and penetrates the skin and makes little micro injuries, if you will. And as horrible as that sounds, the last thing you want to do is injure your skin, right? Well, yes and no. The cool thing about that is that it actually stimulates your skin to heal itself, repair itself. It's like, you're just kind of cruising along. Oh yeah, skin's good. Well, when you get an injury, your body says, wait a minute, we've got to go fix this. That's all, like wound healing, for example. It's sort of the same thing. It's a nice way to create a little injury to the skin, just enough to get it to repair itself. And it's a great treatment for fine lines and wrinkles, actually a little bit of skin tightening, depending on how aggressive, how many treatments you get. People with discoloration have to be a little careful because it's usually paired with some heat. But yeah, no, yeah, it's a great treatment.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jo. And then we have a question from Gwendolyn. And she is wondering, what helps for melasma?
Well, the number one thing is going back to the sunscreen and protecting, making sure that you are using some sort of sun protection factor every single day that you leave your home. I know a lot of people are like, well, I don't go to the beach. I don't go to the pool. I don't do any of that stuff. But you walk to the mailbox, you walk to the street, you go to the grocery store, all of those little incremental exposures to the sun. For someone who has melasma, when there's heat on your skin, the melanocytes get stimulated and they will show themselves. So that's first and foremost. There is no treatment, no product that you would use unless you are protecting on the daily. But you definitely want to avoid any chemical sunscreens. You want to stick to the physical barriers. Hats, sunglasses, those kinds of things are always great as well. But there's, like I said, there's a bunch of BB creams out there that are lovely and have SPF in them. and just have the physical blocker. And when you turn the label over, that's the first thing you'll see. And when you start to see blah, 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 words that you can't pronounce or have a lot of, they look funny to you. Those are chemical ingredients, but just remember zinc oxide, titanium dioxide. Some of them have both ingredients. Some of them just have zinc. Some of them have just titanium dioxide, but you want to start there. In terms of correction, vitamin C, you know, that is a protective product as well. The retinols, it's slowly going to make that go away. We steer away from laser treatments because those deliver heat, and that's the last thing that you want to do. There are some good peels out there in aesthetic offices. Some do generate heat. There are some that will light you up, but a good esthetician should be able to direct you to an appropriate peel that will not make your melasma any worse.
Absolutely. And then we have a question from Rebecca, and Rebecca is wondering, at what point are over-the-counters just not effective for aging skin?
Actually, I honestly feel like there's a fair amount of really good products that are out there. There are some retinol products out there that actually will create some irritation and do all of the things that a medical grade skincare line. Some of the medical grade stuff actually has prescription strength ingredients in it, but like your cleansers and your basic moisturizers and hyaluronic acid, all of those are still very good for aging skin. So you don't have to, I don't tell people that they don't, you know, like you have to go spend all the money on skincare. There are some really lovely products that are over the counter that will hold you so you don't need skincare anymore. What I can tell you though is that I don't know of one particular line that has everything that you might want. Like you would probably need to kind of pick and choose from different lines and get what's going to work for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then we have a question from Rebecca as well, or yes, from, sorry, lots of names happening, from Shelby and Rebecca, but do you recommend red light therapy?
Yeah. I actually do red light therapy myself. I actually have an esthetician and she recommends all the things to me, but I probably do that about every 8 weeks. There are at-home red light therapy devices, as small as like little handheld devices to masks that people buy. And then a lot of aesthetic practices actually have and offer red light therapy. The place that I go actually offers whole body red light therapy. Yeah, it's a great treatment as well.
Absolutely. Well, Jo, that looks like that's all the questions that we have in there today. But thank you so much for joining us for this hour and really just spending some time giving your expertise. I know we had a lot of people jump in today, which I think just also goes to show that like this is, you know, a topic that needs to be talked about and that people, it's really helpful kind of to get to hear your perspective on as well. And I just want to also let everyone know who's in the call now is that we will have another, like we said at the beginning, we will have some of these lunchtime skincare lives throughout the end of the week. Tomorrow we'll be talking about how to layer skincare products. So Jo is going to kind of build on what she taught us today and talk a little bit more about like what it means really to kind of go into layering those. But Jo, thank you so much for your time and being here. This was so helpful and fun to learn a little bit about.
Great. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, everyone, we hope that we will see you tomorrow. If you missed a question or you have a question that's popped into your head now, bring it tomorrow and we will answer some more. So we will catch you all then.
Awesome. All right. Sounds good.
Bye all.
Bye.